everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Catherine and today I'm going to be going over my 2025 book stats and reading challenges, as well as going over the reading challenges I'm going to be doing for 2026. This year I read 42 books, which is the most I've ever read, which is super exciting for me, and I'm really proud of that number, even though I didn't get to 50, but I have it set for 50 again this year. I read a total of 10,686 pages, and I listened to 129.8 hours of audiobooks. In 2025, I read 360 days out of the 365 days. There were only about 5 days in January that I didn't read at all, but after that I read at least one page, and that's how I counted it. I read at least one page for every day after that in 2025, and I'm really excited for that stat, and part of me is a little scared for the day that I lose that fable streak, because it will happen and it'll be a little soul crushing. Right now I think it's at 345, but I might intentionally not read for a day, that way it starts over and I don't feel so badly about it. Out of the 42 books, 14 of those books were fantasy and sci-fi, 14 were romance, 4 of them were nonfiction. I read 3 horror books. For thriller, mystery, and fiction, I read 2 books each, and I read 1 romantasy. I do have 6 graphic novels on my shelves that I read in 2025, and I think those were lumped into romance, even though one of them definitely isn't a romance, but within those romances, I read 6 graphic novels. My reading split up is I read 33% audiobooks, 38% physical books, 23.8% were digitally read that I borrowed from Libby, 4.8% was a mix of those. I either tandem read an audio and a physical book, or I maybe read some of the book on audio and some of the book on physical. The where I got the book stat was super interesting. I bought 35.7% of the books I read last year. I bought them in 2025 and read them in 2025. I borrowed the exact same amount that I bought in 2025, which is nice. I borrowed usually from Libby, or I use my Spotify audiobook hours for listening. And 28.6% of the books that I read last year, I already had on my shelves going into 2025, and I read them. One of my goals this year is going to be to bring that number up higher. One stat that I didn't put on here that I thought was interesting was, out of all the authors that I read last year, 87.5 of those authors I had not read before, and the 12.5% I have read before, and that's, I think, maybe 3 authors that are on this list that I had already read. According to Fable and Storygraph, my average rating for 2025 was a 4.1, which I feel is really high. At the beginning of the year last year, I was giving out 4s like crazy, and I was not really being honest with myself and really picky about whether or not I thought a book deserved a 3 or a 4. And I think looking back at some of the ratings that I had, I would lower quite a few of them, but I'm not going to go and do that at that point. I just have to learn from what I think books should be rated and keep it going from there. Last year, I challenged myself to do 2 reading challenges. Both of them are hosted on Storygraph through Books and Lala. I am a longtime follower of hers. I think that she is the most creative person ever, and I just love her mind, and I love what she does on her channel. So I did her buzzword challenge and her buzzword cover challenge. She's had the buzzword challenge for many years before this, and last year she added the buzzword cover challenge to kind of partner with that, and I tried to do them both. I completed the buzzword cover challenge to its extent. I did every single prompt, but I am such a mood reader that I did not do them in the months that they were assigned. I would read a book, and if it fit with one of the months, I would just put it where it would go. Reading the books within their month is so difficult for me, and I did not want that to hinder me at all. I got 8 of the 12 prompts of the buzzword challenge done, which is still pretty cool. I would have loved to have completed that one, but that's okay. I completed 1. This year, for my reading challenges, I was super inspired by Herkiad, or the hardest reading challenge you'll ever do, that's hosted by QWERTY on YouTube. I fear it would take me my entire life to complete that challenge. So I babied it down and I made it my own bingo board that I think that I can complete within a year successfully. My reading is just much slower than what I think it would take for me to complete this board for Herkiad, and I wanted to kind of pare it down to make it to where I was successful within my own year of reading. So instead of it being a 5x5, I made it a 3x3, and this is my board. The first prompt on the board is straight from Herkiad. It's called By the 100s, and there are 7 books that you have to read, and the first book has to be between 100 and 199 pages. The second book has to be 200 to 299 pages, and so on. So it goes up to 700, and then it's 700 plus. So if I read an 800 book, that would just count for that last one. But that's 7 books. The next is my 6 in 2026. Okay, I had to get some of them off of my shelf, but I have 6 books in 2026 that I want to read. A lot of people have been doing 26 in 2026, and I just simply cannot do that. That's too many books to have predetermined on my book list if I am to read 50 this year like I hope so. That's already half of my reading determined for me, and I don't love that. So instead it's a 6 in 2026. Last year I did a 5 in 25, and I read 3 of the 5 books, and the other 2 books I put back on this list because I think it's only fair and I do need to read them. Starting with the 2 that I did not complete last year, the first one is A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. This has been on my TBR since I think 2019 when I was in college. I have all 3 books, so I need to read this. The next one is The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah. Next is Sister Song by Lucy Holland. Hall of Smoke by H.M. Long. Chain Gang All-Stars by Nana Kwame Adjei-Brenyah. And Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates. The next thing on the bingo board I also took from QWERTY, and it's Read the Rainbow, and it's specifically a queer Read the Rainbow, and I'm only going to stick to the 6 original colors of the rainbow: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, just because again I know that it can get to a lot of books if I just completely go through that rainbow, and her rainbow had 11 colors, so I'm going to do 6 of them. The next is an A to Z challenge. And for the Herkiad board, it was the first letter of the first word of the book, or the first name of the author had to be that letter for you to include it for that letter on that bingo board, and I just don't think that I can do that. So for the A to Z challenge, I'm going to use any word in the title is going to count for that. I don't know yet if I'm going to be using author names as well, but if I'm racing to the finish and I don't have Q or Y or Z, I'm gonna figure out what to do then. The next thing is going to be the Buzzword Cover Challenge again, hosted by Books and Lala. I'm gonna have it on Storygraph, and she hosts it through Storygraph, so I'm gonna do the Buzzword Cover and the Buzzword Challenge, and I've already kind of mapped out what is on my TBR that could fit for some of those. The next is going to be 15 books off of my physical TBR. I think I can achieve that. I know that I can achieve that. I have plenty of books to choose from. If you're looking at the screen, this side I have read, this side I have not read. So I have 30 books to choose from. 3 new releases is the next one. I still want to make sure that I'm reading books that are coming out. I felt like last year I kept reading 2025 releases, but looking at my stats, I know that that's not true. I just kept feeling that way every time I picked up a new book that came out. So I'm gonna make it to where I at least read 3 of them. And then the last one is not necessarily a book, but it's for me to complete a 24-hour readathon where I start a timer and I read for 24 hours. And I stop the timer if I am doing something that's not reading. The way that this bingo board is going to work is I have 2 spots that each book can go towards. So right now I'm reading Wuthering Heights, and I can count that for by the hundreds because I can put it in the 300 category since it's 337 pages. And I can also put it for W of the A to Z challenge. So each book will get 2 spots. I don't know if I'm allowing myself to change those spots. Like, let's say that I find another book that fits a category that I can like move a book to. I might not allow myself to do that, just so that way I can really make sure that I'm being honest with myself, but who knows? Let's see what happens in June. All right, that's all from me. Thank you so much for watching if you've made it this far, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!